Let's call to you the meeting to order, and we'll start with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment. No one from the audience? Devin, anyone online?
No attendees online.
Okay. We'll skip over to D, the minutes. I need a motion to approve the November 14th minutes.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Correspondence, Kathy, did we receive anything via email,
Nope,
letter?
received.
Okay. We'll go to F, reports. Chair report, I have nothing at this time from our last meeting. Then we'll go to F2, Town Council Liaison Report. Joe, anything?
As you know, this is our last meeting tonight. A new council will be in session in January, but as far as we're going, everything is on schedule as far as us with supporting this project.
All right, thanks, Joe. Farmington High School Building Report, Chris.
Yeah, nothing significant. I mean, we're moving along and everything's going well in terms of the project itself. It's hard to believe that we're 9 months out or so from occupancy. And I guess, Chris, we're still working together with professional partners on both sides, so it's going well. I would report in that the committee did elect or the town of Farmington and CSG have elected to mutually separate and part ways. And Russ Arnold was appointed as project manager to take this project to completion, and we will support Russ in hiring other professionals, partners as needed, but that will have no impact on the progress of the project.
I ask a couple of questions. What is
Oh.
the date, the occupancy date that you shooting for the fall?
We're shooting fall, yeah. So once they'll leave, the graduating class will graduate, and then the incoming year in the fall of in August will occupy.
So there, because I heard this, Farmington grapevine rumor that some kids might be starting in the spring.
No,
No, I can't imagine.
No.
I can imagine. And
I,
just to ask
yeah.
how the committee's feeling about the green space and space for students. The outside space for different things that have been happening outside, let's say a lacrosse practice or pick me up or cheerleaders going off. Are they talking about that at all?
not necessarily. I mean, I think, I probably the comment, I think we're probably never happy enough that there's never enough space.
True.
But
True.
other than that, we're happy with the way the plan is. And
Okay. I
yes,
think
yeah.
kind of in conjunction with us.
Yeah, exactly. It'll dovetail with the tennis courts and the complete, I guess, campus site, as we want to phrase it that way. But we're happy with it. But you're never happy enough. There's
Yeah,
never enough
yeah.
space.
Yes.
Scott, did you have
That's
anything?
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can just add to that, I think the building committee's been very clear and transparent as the process has gone along around the loss of fields, and we've relocated those. So, this is going on year 2 of being at Irving Robbins. Eventually when the tennis courts come back, although not green space, will be really nice to be on campus. But for the time being, tennis has been relocated to IAR. We have a full-size baseball field that's been relocated to IAR, which we did lose, both with even if the 28 building was not moving forward, that still may have been a tough space to get that in. And that was actually removed prior to the 28 referendum going out. So there have been some shifts. And then of course, Farmington High School students are always used to moving down to Tungus Mead for many of their activities and events already. So there has been some loss, but like I said, we've been able to accommodate and adjust for it. So I think that's been helpful as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
You
you.
good, Gene? Yeah, excellent. Okay, F4, Chris, why don't you pick it up of the review and design portion, please?
Sure.
And go.
So today marks the DD submission date, and the document that you see up on the screen is those are the DD drawings. So I believe it's 141 sheets. We can flip through them really quick, but I did not plan to stop very long and talk about each or any of the sheets. So Devin, yeah, you can just kind of keep flipping. So this includes our code plans, as you see here. It will get into the civil drawings, the structurals, architecturals, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, fire protection. And at design development, where we are at the end of design development, we consider this set to be 50% complete, which means, yes, 50, which means it's also 50% incomplete. But we try our best to capture scope in this drawing set. So we really want to identify what the scope of the project is, and a lot that remains to be done is the detailing, getting into some of the interior finishes, the more precise details still remain. And as you can see here, the civil drawings are typically more advanced at this stage because we plan to start the land use approval process in the very near future. Yeah, these are the structural drawings. And Peter or Kathy, I didn't know if you wanted to stop on the floor plans or if there was anything in particular you all wanted to look at in this design development set.
Well, probably, I don't think we need to go into construction drawings.
No,
Okay.
maybe just the floor plan.
Floor plans, yeah.
And the floor plans haven't really changed since the last time.
From the last time you saw.
Yeah, that was,
Correct.
as you've gone along, have you changed anything? That's, I was gonna ask too. So you haven't.
Nothing of great significance. No, I mean, we're continuing adjusting, minor items, like we might move a wall a couple inches so that the casework fits a little bit better, but we're not changing layouts. We're not changing program, and we're not really changing the use of any particular part of the building. But as you can see, these floor plans that were conceptual before and just showed the spaces with some color now are showing column grid lines, starting to show dimensions and tags. So a lot more information continues to get layered on top of these drawings. And these were also sent out today to the third-party estimator. So he has them in hand, and I confirm that he will be on schedule to meet the dates that we'll talk about later at this building committee meeting in terms of getting the design development estimate back so we can do any value engineering meetings as required.
Okay. What we're gonna do is some interior finishes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go into more detail.
All right.
Those documents. Maybe you could start with the other PDF, Devin.
Yeah. Just one thing before you go any further, Chris. Chris will review this portion of his report, and then later on, we are going to set up a subcommittee. And that committee will start looking more in depth at the finishes and carpeting and things like that. That will eventually go in the building. So this is right now a concept, we'll call it, and this committee will go into this a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
Right.
Chris vetted it with Kat,
Yep.
Peter, myself, and Russ, and just, he'd looked at some different things. This is what we kind of came out for a starting point. We figured it would run similar to how we did the entryway. Unless people really dislike what we kind of picked for the beginning part, we figured you'd start there, have the subcommittee meeting, and then fine tune it. So Chris will start there.
Sure. And before we move in, something else I should have mentioned about the design development set is, please, if you want to, take the time over the next few weeks to dig into it. I'm sure Russ will do so. But we're going to take these few weeks between now and when the estimate comes back internally to do our quality control. So even though we're not complete, we pause at DD to kind of get our heads back into it and make sure everything's coordinated and that the details are all coming together as planned.
I'm just curious about one thing. When you talk about these things, are departments involved at all?
On the finishes?
Yeah.
No.
No.
So Yeah, what you have in the packet in front of you and also shown on the screen was our interior department's first pass at laying out some inspiration images and some initial thoughts on finishes in terms of materials, colors, and tones. So in the first page of this packet, you'll see what are some inspiration photos on the left-hand side with a general color palette in neutral tones for the building. In the middle of that page are some thoughts starting at the top on the bathroom tiles. So we have a few different scenarios in this building where we have existing bathrooms that are going to remain in their current location, and we're going to preserve as much of that tile as we can. It will be painted with a glazing product that's made specifically to paint over tiles, because there have been renovations over the years where they've patched and there's some mismatched tiles that exist currently. But one of the items that we talked about during concept to save dollars was to keep as much of that tile as possible and just refinish it, touch it up with that paint product. But what you're seeing in front of you here are some proposed new tile at the first floor bathrooms, which are brand new. And our thought is, right now we're showing tile on all the walls with an accent wall where the plumbing fixtures would be. So there's one wall that has the sinks as well as the toilet stalls. And that's an area where we can introduce some color, but then maintain sort of a neutral tone at the other walls and the flooring in that bathroom with the gray tiles that you're seeing. Moving below that is LVT. So this is luxury vinyl tile. If you think of the old VCT, which is vinyl composition tile that you see in a lot of your schools that required waxing, this is a little bit higher grade material, and it does not require any maintenance, whether waxing or otherwise. So very low maintenance in terms of the life expectancy and operations of maintaining this tile. These again are neutral tones, and these are what we would see in the corridor, and that would show up better in some of the renderings that we'll look at momentarily. At the bottom of the page, you can see some carpet tiles, and these would be some ideas of accent colors, but we'll get into the field carpet tile a little bit later. And then on the right-hand side of that first page were some initial thoughts or concepts on the casework. So in terms of the casework materials, we're looking at solid surface countertop, which is Corian, if you're familiar with that product. So it's higher grade than a plastic laminate, lower grade than a stone. It's actually what we have right here in front of us. So very durable. It's, again, very low maintenance. And then in terms of the cabinets themselves, whether they're base or upper cabinets, those would be a laminate material. And we have options to go with solid colors or wood tones, as you see in these three different ideations. The next page shows some initial design concepts of the lobby. And I'm going to hold off on talking through these until we see the renderings, because I think the renderings that you see will give a better idea of what that finished space could look like. And that approach will be similar for a few of these. As we move to the next page is the corridor design. And we showed some different options of how we can introduce color into these corridors, whether it's a low wainscot on the wall that has color at the base and then more neutral tones above, or do we add color to one side of the corridor, as you see in that middle photo, and keep the other side neutral? So those are a few different options that we discussed, and you'll see in the renderings, we had shown that first image on the left-hand side where it's a wainscot of accent color below and then a neutral color above. Moving on to the next page were some thoughts on conference rooms. Again, we tend to use these spaces with a mix of mostly neutral colors, but adding an accent wall or some accent carpet to bring out some pop in that room in terms of color. And we have, I believe we had a rendering of that as well. And then moving on to the last page. So this is carpet tile and paint. And again, trying to stay neutral for the majority of the building, but some of those accent colors you saw previously would be introduced, whether it's into the carpeting in the offices or potentially accent paint color walls within the offices as well. And I think that's really what we want to dive into when the subcommittee is established and where we can introduce those pops of color in this building. But primarily, just as a general approach to this building, as we discussed pre-referendum, your heavy trafficked areas, meaning your corridors and your lobbies, the toilet rooms are going to be either that resilient flooring, the LVT, or tile flooring. And then the offices will primarily be carpeted as you have now. And these will all be carpet tiles, again, for ease of maintenance and replacement. If there's any damage or spills, you can just pop one tile out and replace it. Any questions on that before we move into the renderings?
I'm just curious about little questions to know. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask this question or not, but are there display opportunities for, you know, I know, I think it was at Westwoods, we put movable display cabinets in there, but I'm just thinking of all the wonderful things coming out of our schools and different things that might be able to be displayed, art, fashion, different things that we see a lot.
Absolutely. In terms of physically displaying items, yeah, it really depends on the size of the items and the depth of those and where we can carve out spaces to, whether it's put, you know, freestanding display cabinets that sit out in the corridor, or if they're built into walls. Our corridors are wide enough to provide some opportunity, but do realize that if we add any display cabinets, say they're 18 inches deep, that does take out 18 inches
Yeah, no, I
of
was
the corridor.
about,
Yeah.
you know, out in the lobby area, or different areas that.
Yes.
Different things that are happening.
Jean, is your thought that stuff that comes out of the 1928 high school would be used more for art in the new town hall?
I'm just thinking about students' artwork
Oh, okay.
or students, you know, photography,
Like-
art.
Oh, like,
Almost like what they do at the library, basically, what they post down in
You
the
know,
bigger room.
Sometimes we see things out here in this.
We have one up in the,
Yeah.
so
outside the
hanging,
central.
more so hanging,
Possibly
frames.
a pottery pot. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, it would be nice.
well, I agree, and I
to have
think we ought to
Mm.
maybe put that
That's something
somewhere
really
Yeah.
talented.
in the dialogue here. Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Just something to think about.
Well, it's going to be a big reception lobby area. We'd be
Yeah.
nice to have something like that in there.
It's just.
Great.
I agree.
uh,
Okay, Chris, you can go into the renderings of.
So we have a few renderings here of the new lobby area. So this is the addition where we're adding a airlock vestibule, and then the primary lobby where we would have some soft seating that's not displayed in these renderings. But essentially here, we're standing, looking back towards the existing building. You can see the reception area on your right. So the entrance lobby would be just off the page to the right behind that white wall that's poking out at the corner. Directly in the middle is the elevator, the new elevator door that would lead up to all levels. And to your left would be the doors into the multi-purpose room or gymnasium. In terms of finishes here, on this gym wall, what we're proposing is a porcelain tile that has a stone appearance. And that is the same tile that we would extend to the exterior of the building. When we looked at those plaza renderings, as you approach the building, we had shown that gray stone or gray tile over the face of the existing building at the first floor level, where you could have the town seal and some lettering that read town of Farmington and some seating areas. So we're proposing to extend that finish from the exterior to the interior and continue it across the entire face of that wall, as you see here. In terms of accent colors, we discussed utilizing the Farmington maroon or Farmington red.
Kind of right there.
Yeah, it looks a little
This-
darker there,
Yeah,
but
This is off a little.
Yeah, this is
This is off, but.
a little big.
Yeah, but we're thinking of maroon.
Yeah,
of
what-
Color.
I mean, we had input whatever the helix number
Yeah.
was, but I guess it didn't, oh, sorry, generate quite properly coming out of the system, but that's the intent of that red/maroon color.
Yes, that is not the color.
If you go to the next one, Devin. So this is, just a different view looking more towards the multipurpose room. We don't have a great opportunity here to capture high volume in this space because we're fitting this addition in below the windows of the existing second level. So what we're proposing is that in the middle of this space to actually expose it to the structure above. So you're actually seeing painted steel structure there with the corrugated metal deck and some steel beams. And it gives us an opportunity to lift this volume a little bit more in the middle, but also provide something that we felt was intriguing from a design perspective, where we can hang some light fixture pendants and some acoustical clouds there and create almost a piece of art in this lobby through the architecture and the structure.
And Chris, this is where we were thinking about putting the town seal, right?
We had discussed a location, whether it's on that gym wall. I think in the next image, Kathy, it's actually shown on
The other one.
a different wall, but yeah, somewhere within this lobby,
And right here.
we can provide another town seal.
Okay, yep, thanks.
You go to the next one, Devin. So yeah, in this case, again, not a great rendering of what that seal would be. It'd likely be a bronze or some other metal, as I think you have on the front of your
Mhm.
council desk here. But we have opportunities here, whether it's the town seal or artwork, to display different items within this lobby area, along with the soft seating.
Yeah, and then we talked about potentially having like like calling it old fashioned, but the calendar, like where all the meetings are and all the different like technology, right?
Right.
Well,
Yeah, we
Peter
need a
Ford, but
display.
with a display.
Yeah, so when you come into the vestibule, which is behind the wall behind where that town seal is on the other side, we had discussed having a digital display that tells you what meetings are occurring, where all the different departments are located within town hall. But in addition to that, throughout this building, we will have what we call wayfinding signage. So it will direct you to primary spaces, but also all of the office and department locations.
Do you remind me where that door to the left of the elevator? Or is that,
That leads you to the main corridor, which takes you down to the clerk, assessor, and tax collector offices. And then this was a rendering of that first floor level corridor showing what we could achieve with the wainscot, adding a pop of color at the base of the wall, but then keeping a neutral tone above. This image is probably a little more washed out than it would appear in real life. Those lights are kind of adding some glare, in my opinion, but you can get a sense of the flooring with the LVT where we're showing a border at the perimeters and then a lighter color in the middle. This is a common approach in municipal buildings as well as, whether they're schools or town halls, because the dust and the dirt tends to collect at the edge. So having darker tones around the edge and also variation in all of our finished materials, whether it's carpet or VCT, helps to hide the dirts and the debris and the dust as you go through the building. So that's something we want to achieve as well in the selection of finished materials. I believe that's it.
That's it.
What do you use for the base, the casing and the chair rail and something like this?
It depends. The base would either be a rubber or a wood product. And for, a trim piece, there's typically a transition between the two colors. So you can go with a more historic approach, which again would be either a PVC or a wood material, or a more modern approach would be like a metal trim piece that's more subdued.
With the base, and I'm not worked on a building like this, so that's why I'm asking these questions. Does the base stick out like 3/4 of an inch or whatever? The renderings appear to be flush, but I just wonder if that's the rendering or is that the intention?
If it's a rubber product, a vinyl product, it has very low
Yeah.
projection, but a wood base, yes, would project out. And that's something I think as we get into the DD estimate as well as the
Yeah, I think
subcommittee
there's
for
gonna be lots
finishes,
of
we'll need to
variations.
discuss all those items. It's not going to impact the budget significantly when we're talking about, base materials, but it's more of a design decision. So absolutely great question.
Okay, anything else for Chris? Any questions? Yeah, yeah, I know.
Then just general questions. I know we're gonna look at this more. The paving outside here is brick, I think, correct? Is there a floor that could kind of continue the color, like you're doing with the wall, can continue the outside and come inside, even if it was set, even just in the space?
Sure.
It probably can't be brick. That would be horrible, but that's something that kept the color.
Right, right. Yeah, you're gonna want something non-porous.
Yeah.
Devin, if you could go back to the DD set. And then I'm sorry, I don't know what sheet it's going to be, but it's going to be earlier than you are now. Back in the civil drawings. Keep going. Right there, if you could zoom into that entry plaza area. If you could zoom in a little more, actually. So what we're currently proposing are concrete sidewalks, granite curbs at the parking area and at that initial sidewalk as you come up to the building. And then what looks like a gray tone is actually a hatch pattern of what could be pavers. So I know we had discussed the possibility of donations or selling pavers. So that is the area we are suggesting right in that plaza where those pavers could be located, and we will continue to work through that design with you, whether it's a full expanse of pavers as you see here, or if we break it up with a different material and have insets of pavers. But absolutely, I think we could somehow try to integrate what we're doing outside, at least in terms of color and appearance,
Yeah.
with what that lobby becomes.
Yeah. You're already doing it with the wall, so I think
Yep.
it's nice. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right, so let's go to F5 Communications Subcommittee. Kat, Jane, maybe an update of where we're headed with the communication?
We
Yes.
Canceled.
Yeah, we haven't,
Explain why.
Yeah.
we haven't met in a little bit. We were waiting for the DD set to be complete. So what we're envisioning, and it'll be on the 3-month look ahead that we have and we'll distribute in a little bit, is we're hoping to have the subcommittee meet at the January 23rd meeting at our normal time ahead of it. We should have the newsletter content for that, renderings, and we'd be hoping to get a newsletter out to households in February. So trying to, once we get this DD set done, giving the community an update at that time.
Okay,
And
good.
some renderings.
Yes, with
Yeah.
some of these renderings when they're refined a little bit.
Okay, will that be the only one, or are we thinking of another one?
I think
Sure.
you're probably gonna have another
Another
one.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
You guys can work out some dates on that.
23rd, you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'll be giving out a sheet
Sheet,
to have
yeah.
it listed
Uh,
for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
All right. F6 Value Engineering Subcommittee report. We don't have any new updated information. We actually will have a meeting, our first meeting on January 9th. So, next meeting, we should have potentially, a more thorough, report on value engineering. F7 financial report, Kathy.
You have the attachment, and unless you have any questions, I think we're on target.
Okay. Any questions? All right, we'll go to G1 under new business, and I'll need motions for these. Joe?
Yes, make a motion to approve the attached invoice from Silver Petroselli Associates in the amount of $56,000.
Any discussion? On this, Sherry, hold off on voting. I think you'll be
Appointed tonight.
appointed tonight. So next meeting, you'll be full-fledged. Okay. All those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
G2, make
Yep.
a motion to establish interior design and finishes subcommittee.
okay, so I need some volunteers.
I would like to be on that.
Okay, Jean?
I could.
Well, just a
Just
finger
there.
point, huh? Boy, you,
I was worried I was like a one-man show.
okay, quite frankly, how many people should we,
I think you could do 2 or 3 if someone else has an
All right.
interest in it. I think 3 would be the maximum. Okay,
all right,
Yep.
those 2 it is.
yes.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Joe, G3.
You take the vote.
You gotta-
Oh,
Oh, we got to vote on that,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Wow,
could you say-
really jumping.
Was there a third?
It'll be
You
you
two.
two.
You too. Okay. All right, all those in favor of Jean and Jack being on the interior design subcommittee, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Absolutely not.
Voted for us.
Motion passes.
I did the look.
I saw a little finger point. I said, oh, boy.
It's called voluntold.
G3, Joe.
Make a motion to approve the draft RFP for commissioning services as presented.
Kathy, you want to speak
Yeah.
to that a
So,
little?
you know, we had a subcommittee who reviewed it, and the service was reviewed and approved by the Professional Partnership Subcommittee at their November 28, 2023 meeting. The town attorney also reviewed the RFP and went through some of the suggestions that we had. So it has been vetted, and this is our final document that has the legal notice and then the request for proposals and also our timeline. So if you remember, this is to go out for our commissioning services, which is basically, correct me, it's like a third-party review, correct?
Correct.
For MEP.
For, yes, thank you.
Okay, any questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Joe, G4, please.
To approve the draft RFP rating for the commissioning services as presented.
Kathy?
Again, this has been reviewed by our Professional Partnership Subcommittee, and it's our rating form. So what will happen is that when these RFPs come back in, you will all get this rating form. The rating form is based on the RFP, so it's not like we're inventing anything. It's going to be, you look at the RFP and you look at the rating form, you'll score everything. And based on our timeline, what will happen is that you'll send us all your rating forms in before the next meeting. We'll go through that timeline later on, and then we'll see who the top people are for our, this is for the commissioning services.
Any discussion or questions?
Does the entire committee do the rating?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, all those in favor for G4 state by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Joe, G5, please.
To approve the draft RFP for professional engineering services as presented.
Kathy?
Same thing, our professional partnership has vetted this. The town attorney has looked at it. We have our timeline, and we are looking to get this out very soon.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I lost track. Where are we going to? 7? 6. Okay, Joe, please.
Approve the draft RFP rating for the professional engineering review and services as presented.
Kathy?
same thing. This is
Yep.
another rating form based on this RFP. It'll be the same thing that we'll go through it. Each committee member will put their points down and then we'll compile it and we'll go over it and pick our professional engineering services.
Did you say how much time, like when did we get things to rate?
Yep, I think
Yep.
we have the timeline. Kat
Is
can
that
go
on
through
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I can go
um,
through it.
Just this RFP from respondents will be due January 12th. And we'll ask ahead of our January 23rd meeting to have the
Yeah.
rating forms back. So got a week to do
Yeah.
your homework.
I see we may have to read these.
You think so? We were thinking we might have to read these.
Yes, let's be a responsible committee, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I
Okay.
was just wondering the timeline here.
Okay, any more discussion on G6? Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Joe, 7.
To approve the inclusion of environmental design consultants in Silver Petroselli and Associates scope of services and request that Silver Petroselli receive proposals and pricing.
Kathy, wanna,
Okay.
or,
And
Chris?
Chris or Kat, just jump in so I don't butcher this. So
yeah,
the two that we just did before is the professional engineering services and the engineering services. We're going out to bid for firms for that, and then the committee is going to look at that, and we're going to have a separate contract with those two firms. This, we've been recommended that instead of going out and having RFPs and doing this as a separate bid, is that Chris's firm is going to go out for the environmental design consultants, which is very similar, but they're going to go out and they're going to come back with the pricing and we are going to include that subcontractor into their scope of services. It's been told the reason why we do this is it's more efficient. And maybe you can explain why we would do that instead of doing it like the other two.
Sure, just given timing, the time frame to go out to RFP and select and do a review process for you would be much longer than we can just reach out to our preferred consultants, and it's probably names that you're familiar with in town. And we'll get pricing directly from them and bring it back to you. So not that you have to move forward in this fashion, but we would certainly recommend it, and it'll give you the option to see those prices before you make a decision on actually authorizing us to hire someone under our contract.
We've been doing that in the high school project, that some of the ones that they've been expanding the contract to the architect, others we've been going out to bid. But either way, you're still getting prices to look at it. And if we think the prices are too high, but Chris thinks it's probably more efficient for us to do it this way, they're going to go out and get prices. And these other two, we felt that the professional partnership felt that it was better to go out for separate bids, which is more consistent because I think these are more like third-party reviews.
right.
So there'll be more than one, obviously.
Well, you
Yeah.
would you would come to us with your,
Yeah, we will get
Right,
multiple
different
proposals. Yep.
Hey, Chris, could you explain exactly what the environmental design consultant does?
Sure. So the environmental design consultant will be responsible for any testing and sampling that remains to be done. There was a report done as part of the high school project, but it didn't touch every surface within the 1928 building that we will be impacting. So that consultant will take our drawings, note which areas we're impacting, compare that to the high school report, and any items that need to still be tested to test for lead or asbestos or hazardous materials will be done by them. Those samples would go out to a lab for results. But then that environmental consultant is also responsible for the design of the abatement plans. So they will document specs, specifications and drawings of what needs to come out and how it needs to come out and the protocol that needs to be followed by the contractor that wins this project.
Terrific, thank you.
I'm just curious because, some of that was done with the first high school project. Is that not reusable?
What is done, I'm not an environmental engineer, but certainly
Or from-
we'll ask that question, and I would anticipate that some of the items that were already tested will not need to be retested. We're just filling in the gaps.
Okay, because that,
And then in addition to that,
he
they need
has
to-
the report
right.
that was done.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has all of that.
Oh, good, okay.
in addition to the testing and sampling, as I said, they'll need to do a design of what needs to come out and how it needs to be handled. Yep.
And it's Chris, is this part of, standard procedure, or is this one part of our ordinance?
This one is not part of our ordinance, but I think given the age
Age
of the
of the
building,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
something we definitely need to consider.
These three items almost are, to me, like just a third party check on different things. We do a third party check on the mechanicals. We're looking at the environmentals. And the last one is, I think, the design itself, correct? Is it like a third party kind of look?
Your professional engineering review services, I believe, is like a third-party review of our documents.
And that's
yes.
per our ordinance,
Ordinance.
that
Yeah.
third-party
Right,
review.
and that's obviously different from what we were trying to do a couple of years ago when we were keeping the building, but, well, discussing it, I should say. I just didn't want to overlap if we didn't.
Right.
need to.
Right.
Okay, Pardon? yeah, I know, I was,
Sorry.
thanks.
Get moving.
Sorry, I'm behind by 10 seconds. All right, all those, sorry. Okay, any further conversation on this? Okay. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, um,
One more.
yes.
And Number 8, to approve the 2024 meeting schedule for the 1928 Building Committee.
Okay, we got a pretty lengthy thing here, so
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, so the first thing, you have the schedule in front of you. The first thing just to note is that we have canceled the January 9th meeting, and instead we'd like to have a VE subcommittee meeting at that time. So
Right,
the members of the VE committee were
Me.
yourself
Jack,
Jack
and
and Mike.
Ross.
Mike.
Okay, so we
Mike.
may need another.
we're gonna need another,
person. It's-
What committee is this?
This is the
Value
value
engineering.
engineering. Okay, so for now. we'll
yeah,
just
for
have-
now, we'll leave it at that, and then,
We'll work.
if we need to expand it, we'll definitely,
Okay.
if we need more bodies.
Okay, so for the next group, our first meeting is January 23rd. I handed out our kind of 3-month look ahead, which I like that we can go through it. And then just, this is kind of a recap too, what we did in our December meeting tonight. So we looked at the design development full set. So we looked at that. We approved the commissioning services RFP. We approved the professional engineering services. We approved the rating forms. We set up an interior design subcommittee. We environmental design consultants, we're getting SPA to go back, get prices for us, and that they're gonna bring those back. And we've approved our meeting schedule. Our subcommittees, our interior design committee, they need to meet relatively quick. We thought potentially you guys could meet on that January 9th date because that should be on your schedule anyway.
Yeah.
But it's up to you all, but we'll contact you to set up the meeting for that.
You
So,
guys will be responsible.
yeah.
for it.
yeah, but our thought was potentially do it at the January 9th meeting because that was the meeting we had scheduled, but we can work on that.
Yes.
So we have the value engineering, and the value engine subcommittee will recommend value engineering items to the committee at its January 23rd meeting. So depending on how things go, right, Chris, we hope for one meeting, but you could potentially have two because by the January 23rd meeting, if there is any value engineering, which means cutting the price, correct?
Right. So,
That's what if
Yeah.
somehow the price is too high,
correct.
then that committee would be looking to make reductions to keep us on budget. So depending on what prices come, but we're hopeful that we're not going to be doing tons of value engineering, but between the time that January 9th
Ninth.
meeting and January 23rd, that the committee will be looking at any reductions if needed that we have to make. So January, the 23rd meeting, we're going to accept the design development documents. And at that time, we're going to have the cost estimates. And we're also going to have, if we have to make any reductions,
Reductions.
we're going to talk about the approved and updated
Yep.
VE at the January
Yep.
23rd. We're going to go into executive session and we're going to review those RFPs that have come back. So between the time, Kat, what did you give that January 9th or so and the 23rd?
Yeah.
You guys are going to have to, we're going to get your RFPs, we're going to get your scoring sheets, and then we're going to go into executive session. We're going to select a final candidate for the commissioning services, and you're authorizing me to sign contracts and also work with the professional partnership subcommittee. So again, we'll have those RFPs, we'll negotiate a contract, and I'll be assisted by our professional partnership committee. We're doing that for the engineering services. And then we're going to approve the interior design subcommittee recommendations. So Jean, this goes to when we now have time to do a newsletter, because then after that January 24th, we're going to have our pricing, we're going to have designs that, so we know what it looks like. And our subcommittee for the communications is going to meet soon after that, January 23rd, with the thought of getting out something in February, which would be a big newsletter, which would talk about pricing, the designs, the renderings, and how everything looks and where we are. So
That's
that's,
on the value of engineering,
Me and Jack.
Jack.
Yep.
Yeah.
so
Do
this is
all
our,
into one committee.
yeah. So this is our 3-month look ahead. We're going to keep on updating it, and we've accomplished a lot. And I think, Chris, you told us we're on target to our goals.
Correct.
One question is the independent cost estimator, will that information be for January 9th?
Yeah, I spoke to him today and he confirmed that he'll have
Okay.
the
so-
updated numbers
so-
based on this drawing set to us for the 9th.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So-
Action-packed, January coming up.
Right.
All right. Any more questions on our calendar for 2024? Yeah. Okay. All those in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Nope, motion carries. Before adjournment, I'd just like to bring up a new committee member. Sherry Greco is our new member. She replaces Mr. Walsh, who moved out of town. Sherry has been kind enough to volunteer her time to be on this fun committee. And hopefully after the next meeting, we'll get you even more involved. So on that note, thank you for volunteering for this committee, and let's move forward. Okay, on that note, I need yes, Jane.
Well, I'm assuming our government law students. I love that class. And thank you for coming. And if you ever have any questions, just feel free to ask, but good luck in your class. It's a great class.
Was it interesting?
It is. I want.
No, the kids are.
No, we're fast.
Yeah, I'm sure the class is great. I want to know our feed. How did we do? Did we keep your attention?
I didn't hear any snoring.
All right, come to January.
I really wanted to take that class, but they wouldn't let me in.
Oh, okay. All right, on that note, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.